Hey everyone, and welcome back to OntarioCryptids. I don't know about you guys, but here in Ontario, it is getting cold. The leaves are falling from the trees and Halloween is right around the corner. I've started putting up some decorations for the event next week, but one thing I haven't done as yet is buy the treats. Even though I can't see us getting a ton of kids trick-or-treating next week. Today, I will be sharing 3 stories from Ontario. I'm going to present them in chronological order, so why don't we get right to them? As you know, I'm always looking for great stories to be shared on this channel, so if you have a story that you would like to share in a safe environment, then forward your encounter stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. Now, go grab yourself a beverage and get cozy on the couch or chair and sit back and relax. All right, this first story takes place May 5th, 1990. It takes place in Dufferin County. The nearest town is Orangeville, Ontario. I just want to say, and this is probably the obvious, but 1990, Orangeville would have looked a lot different from what it is today. Even though there's still a lot of green belts, if you take a look, there's a lot of, the Bruce Trail goes, I would say, through it or just below Orangeville. So there's a lot of areas that are densely wooded in this region. We were driving down a 2-lane highway that had no streetlights. I had seen something on the road ahead of us. I told the driver to slow down, and I looked out the right side passenger door window into the field to scan for deer coming from the right field towards the road, thinking it was a deer on the road. I've seen open fields with sparse trees, fog in the fields, backed by dense pine forest. At that point, I was able to see all the details because of the bright moonlight. I didn't see any deer in the field or in the ditch on the right side of the road. All of a sudden, the car slowed down and jolted me forward, drawing my attention back to what was on the road in front of us. I commented to the driver about her heavy foot and hitting a deer that we had seen a mile away. She says, "It's not a deer," which made me focus on the animal moving to the left side of the road. What I saw looked like a large male baboon moving like a rabbit on the 2 front legs, then back legs. The rump is down. It moves to the edge of the road and sits down and looks to its left in our general direction. I yelled, "Slow down! Turn on the headlights!" She did the opposite. We were as far to the right of the highway as we could be, and we were about to roll on by this thing sitting right there without confirming what it was. Not while I'm on point. I grabbed the wheel with my left hand and cranked the wheel hard to the left. Now we are heading straight for it and the ditch. The animal looks at us and then looks straight ahead like it's going to jump the ditch. And then it looked or flinched to the right because it thought we were going to hit it for sure if it crossed the highway. And then darkness took over and we stopped with a hard jolt. When I grabbed the wheel, the driver hit the brakes and cranked the wheel hard to the right. We came to a complete stop, perfectly straightened out, 1 foot from the left shoulder and within 5 feet of the animal. The driver turns the car off and everything goes black. My first reaction was, "What the bleep?" The driver says, "Take your hands off the wheel right now." And I do, pleading my case. I say, "Hurry up and turn the high beams on before it takes off." All of a sudden, she turned the interior lights on and flashes all of our eyes. And now, whatever that thing is, it can see us instead of the headlights shining in its eyes. Finally, she turns the interior lights out and the low beams on. There it is, about 10 to 15 feet away, and it looks like it's crawling unnaturally low to the asphalt, away from the hood of the car. It looked to the right like it was exiting stage right, the ditch. But it turned to the left with its head low, moving to the very edge of the asphalt, gathering its back end above the feet and legs, and looked like it was going to jump the ditch. But it doesn't. It does a rabbit move, 2 front, then 2 back move, and it stops, sits, and looks to the left at us. It's about 1 foot away from the edge of the asphalt in a sitting crouched position, head up on the gravel shoulder. I tell the driver to hit the high beams and let's roll by. She starts heading back to the other lane, and I grab the wheel again and I straighten it out, and we rolled by within 2 feet of the animal very slowly. It would not look at us when we rolled by. Just then the driver blocked my view out her side window. I beeped the horn and looked out the driver's side back door window. It was not there. We drove back to the other lane and stopped. I can see vehicles' lights coming towards us down the highway, but pretty far away. We discussed going back to investigate, but decided not to, and then discussed what we saw and then left. These are the details of what I saw. Pointed head, no tail, no butt pad, and the hair is all short except on its face. And it's even shorter the closer to the eyes, mouth, and nose. The hair looks an even length, 1 inch or so. Its hair looks mainly light brown with gray undertones and flecks of black. It has forward-looking eyes like a predator. What I saw of the feet, they didn't look long or big and wide. Little ears, a crease between the head and shoulders, little or no neck. Head sits forward, flat face, lean body. From the side view, about 200 pounds. The height in this crouch sitting position, 3 to 3.5 feet tall. The only thing massive or muscular looking was its shoulders or upper back, which was kind of humped. Its spine was interesting because when it looked like it was going to jump the ditch, its spine looked straight. It held its head high and erect. I could see the spine protruding. When it did not flee, it relaxed because its spine was not protruding. The head was not erect, but sat forward, and you could see a skin crease in the space between the head and shoulders. Its body language was not saying explode into motion anymore. It was looking more relaxed. Stand or squat, its ground and weight. I noticed that its rear end never touched the ground at any point. All right, this story takes place July of 2004. It takes place in Nipissing County. The nearest town is Magnetawan. And apparently, I guess the road they were on does not exist anymore, or at least it's no longer a highway. It used to be, I guess they were close to Old Nipissing Highway. My girlfriend at the time and her family and I went camping off the Old Nipissing Highway in Magnetawan, Ontario. We arrived at our campsite and started camping for the weekend. The first night was nice and quiet. On the following evening, around 9 to 10 p.m., as it was getting dark, we started to hear what everyone thought was either a wolf or a coyote. The sound was very clear, and after listening for a few minutes, I could tell it wasn't either a wolf nor a coyote, and I could tell that some of the others knew that too. None of us made a big deal about it at the time. When we arrived back at my ex-girlfriend's parents' home the next day, I went on the internet and started to listen to the sound clips of Northern Ontario wildlife. When I could not find a sound clip that came close, the ex-girlfriend's stepdad made a comment like, maybe it's a Bigfoot. So we listened to recordings on the BFRO website. The Mississippi 2004 recording is the closest sound clip that I could find that sounds similar, though What we heard was much louder. I have continued to look for another sound clip that are closer match, but that howl recording from the Mississippi in 2004 is the closest by far. All right, so this is the last story of the day, and this one takes place in July of 2020. And this one takes place in Madawaska Valley. That is in Renfrew County. The nearest road is Spectacle Lake Road. I just got back from a region known as Madawaska Valley in Renfrew County, about 3 hours north of me. It is located on the southern edge of Algonquin Park. Several reports have come out of the park, including an encounter I had back in 2008. It was a Class B experience while camping with 3 of my friends in that park. Rock throwing, odor, and feces found. My family and I rented a cottage this week on a small private lake called Spectacle Lake. The cottage is surrounded by forest, and the region has a good population of moose, deer, wolf, beaver, and bear. On Monday, July 27th, when we arrived at 3 p.m., we got unpacked and got settled in for the afternoon. At 6 p.m., we had a nice dinner and then sat around a big bonfire at approximately 8 p.m. At about 10 p.m., while we were sitting and talking around the fire, I heard something across the lake in the distance. I told everyone to be quiet because I could hear something above the sound of our fire. And then I heard a series of howls come from across the lake. The distance across the lake is about 500 meters. The area had thick forest with cliffs in the background. The howls seemed to come well beyond the distance across the lake and even beyond the cliffs behind the tree line. I would estimate the cliffs to be about 150 meters high. There are no cottages directly across the lake. There are 3 small cottages at a distance to the north of us. However, no one was at those cottages during the week. I've heard these kinds of sounds before, and I figured it was a Sasquatch, but no one else in my group has experienced this before. Naturally, they were all taken back and quite excited by this. Everyone agreed the howls did not sound like wolves, coyotes, loons, deer, moose, or any other kind of animal we are familiar with. These howls went on intermittently for about half an hour, and each time it happened, there were about 3 to 4 howls. About midnight, the fire was dying down, and we all headed into the cottage for the night. But just before going in, we heard a large branch break close by. I would estimate about 20 feet from the cottage in the tree line, and it was a clear, distinct crack of a tree limb. Again, I knew what this was, having experienced this many times, and so I tried to peer into the tree line to see if I could see anything. I heard nothing else and saw nothing. I didn't want to shine flashlights because I knew this might end the activity for the night, so I went inside the cottage. We all went to bed shortly afterwards. At 3:30 a.m., I looked at the time immediately. Something hit or threw something at the cottage very hard. It shook the cottage and woke us all up. Keep in mind, this is a fairly large cottage that is 2 stories tall with a basement walkout and sleeps all 8 of us well. I knew what was happening and got up to look around. I wanted to rule out any of the kids or dogs possibly walking around and maybe knock something off a shelf in the dark. So I walked all around the house from top to bottom. Everyone, including the dogs, were in their beds. The dogs never moved from their spots, even though I know they heard and felt the bang. I looked outside and saw nothing in the pitch darkness, so I went back to bed. I lay there awake and listened for any other activity. Then about half an hour later, I could hear something mumbling or grumbling outside the open window. That's the best way I can describe it. It was close to my window, but I still couldn't see anything when I looked out. I still didn't want to shine a light, hoping for more activity. At 4:15 a.m., something gave a long, hard scrape along the side of the cottage, then nothing. In the morning, at around 6:30 a.m., I woke up and checked the outside perimeter of the cottage and the surrounding area. The ground is hard all around the cottage, so I found no imprints. I went inside the tree line but still couldn't find no definite prints. I could see no handprints or signs of damage on the outside walls of the cottage. I could not find a tree break. I couldn't see any rocks or sticks lying close to the cottage that could have been thrown at the cottage. I found no physical signs of a scrape either. The next night, Tuesday, July 28th, while sitting by the bonfire again, we heard the same screams howl from across the lake. This would occur off and on until about 5 a.m. I took a recording from my bedroom at around 2 a.m. in the morning, and you can hear 4 howls, and the last one is the loudest and clearest. There was no more activity of any kind on Wednesday or Thursday, but I heard these screams howls again on Friday, July 31st during the night. We have a large dog, a Bouvier, who constantly cried and wanted to keep going inside the cottage while we were all sitting by the fire. He has never done that before. Very uncharacteristic of him. All right, those were 3 fantastic stories from Ontario, and 2 of them were in close proximity to each other, which I found very interesting. In any case, very interesting stories today. I hope you guys all enjoyed them. I enjoyed sharing them with you. Next week is Halloween, so we'll have to see what good stories I can find for that event. And, well, I think that's going to be it. So if these stories reminded you of an encounter that you may have had, then please forward your stories to OntarioCryptids@gmail.com. I would be honored to share your story on this channel. Thank you for listening until the end. I truly appreciate it. Please hit that like button on your way out and smash that subscribe button if you're new to my channel. And last but not least, have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you all next week.